Bitcoin and the pandemic. I woke up this morning, just a few minutes ago, and after recording another podcast, I opened up CoinMarketCap and I saw that Bitcoin's over 31,000. It just passed its record high maybe a couple of weeks ago of 20,000, actually 19,000, high 19,000s. And so it's an incredible run up. And I want to talk about Bitcoin and the pandemic because I believe there's two contradictory forces that are fueling each other. It sounds kind of strange, but it's incredibly powerful if you understand it. So there's this force and there's counterforce. Like one of the laws of thermodynamics says that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And what happens is as people feel more powerless, and in the pandemic, and also if there's a surveillance state, and other things associated with it, because now everybody is more monitored because people are more afraid of spread of transmission. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We do have to be careful. I've done some different thoughts on this. I think that it's good to be careful, and it's good to be prudent. It's good to use good judgment. It's good to be obviously always respectful of your own health and other people's health to a maximal degree. But you don't want to live your life totally afraid, because fear basically kills you. It kills your drive, it kills your spirit, and it kills your success. So as people feel like there's less and less that they can do, then they want to, fight back. Like I see a lot of podcasts where they say Bitcoin is fighting back, it's fighting against whatever they think they're fighting back against. If they think they're fighting the global elites, or they think they're fighting the global monetary system, or they think they're fighting, a certain government or a collection of governments. So as one gets stronger, the other gets strong. Like there's always an authoritarian principle that wants to kind of like clamp down and centralize things, and then there's always a spirit that wants to some people have talked about Freud talked about the life and the death instinct. This might be a little bit of a not exact analogy, obviously, but there's a tendency to build up and there's a tendency to destroy. Like even the Bible says there's a season for everything. I think the human spirit has two contradictory tendencies, and I'm just writing this down because it just popped into my head. And I think it's freedom versus security. People want to be secure, and that's why they agree to like surveillance and other things. Because our, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is another one. It's like, being secure and being free are sometimes two different things. It's kind of like a job. Like you could be an entrepreneur, which is very scary, lack of security, but there's a lot of freedom. Or you could be an employee where every day, you're going to get paid. Like an employee, you don't know if you're going to get paid, like if the marketplace rejects you. So it's like there's tremendous insecurity. That's why they say being an entrepreneur is like eating broken glass, or Gary Vaynerchuk says being an entrepreneur is like getting punched in the face every day. But there's tremendous freedom. There's like tremendous upside, but there's like tremendous downside. Bitcoin is like that. Bitcoin has a lot more volatility because it's on the freedom mode. It's not on the empowerment mode. So as a result, it's not in the security mode. The security mode is like, not the U.S. dollar, but the U.S. dollar is probably a lot more secure than Bitcoin at this point. But some people are saying that's changing as Bitcoin becomes more adopted by institutional investors and seen as digital gold and things of that nature. But anything that represents freedom, is more volatile. It has more of an upside and more of a downside. It's like being an entrepreneur. You can make, billions of dollars, or you could totally lose your shirt. And anything that's more stable, status quo, like traditional currencies. That's why disruptors like, Stripe and PayPal and things like that, they can have, Tesla, they can have big swings. People can be shorting them, to try to put them out of business, and some companies do get shorted out of business, most likely. Or they could be like, like for example, like Nikola and other things, they're basically like Tesla wannabes. They, excuse me, for good reason, they basically got almost shorted out of business because they don't live up to the hype. But anything that represents disruption, that represents freedom, that represents progress, is going to be more volatile. And anything that represents the status quo, security, people are going to be attracted to that also. But it's going to be more stable. But things are stable until they're not, until there's a paradigm shift. Like they say, the amount of change is underestimated in the short term, but overestimated in the long term. And in the law of accelerating returns, like the Fortune 500 is turning over much, much more quickly. So it's like as Bitcoin becomes more powerful, then the governments want to clamp down on it more. As the governments want to clamp down on it more, people want to use it more. So it's kind of like they're playing off each other. Like as people, get more scared about their life in the pandemic, then they want to find things that will give them their power back. And a lot of people are attracted to Bitcoin for that reason. So the Bitcoin and the pandemic or surveillance or lack of control or whatever dynamic you focus on are kind of opposing forces. It's kind of like the freedom and security that I talked about. And as one gets stronger, the other gets stronger. So how does that play out in an endgame? It's kind of like Republicans and Democrats. Like you can have a stalemate for a long time. What happens is, like when you have a person like Trump, it makes his supporters stronger, but it also makes the opposition stronger, because when you have a polarized, and I don't mean that Trump is necessarily the only person that's polarizing, any person that has like really strong views, like, you could argue, is Trump more polarizing than Alexandria Cortez or whatever? It's kind of like anybody that has like real strong views on one end of the spectrum is going to, like I said, counterforce in terms of mentality. People are going to be attracted to like oppose it. And so it's like when Trump comes out, with his policies, then people are very motivated to try to stop him, that disagree with him. And when Alexandria Cortez comes out with her policies, people that disagree with her are very motivated to stop her politically. So it's kind of like, as Bitcoin gets so much strength, it's going to scare a lot of people. Like the expression in business, adapt or die. They're going to have to either try to, copy Bitcoin, co-opt it, disrupt it, kill it. As more pressure is put on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and other forms of disruption, the people are going to get scared, like, they're trying to kill it. We have to fight back harder. We have to adopt it more. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in terms of these competing forces.